This is UBL TV coming to you live from Charlottesville, Virginia. And today I have a young man that I have a lot of respect for. I want him to introduce himself, and I'm going to go through a series of questions and ask him, just to get a feel for what Mr. Wallek is all about.
First off, I'd like to thank Kenny Thompson for this wonderful opportunity and the entire United Ball and Life community for this opportunity. My name is Ben Wallek, and I am the assistant coach at Windsor High School.
How long have you been involved in basketball, Ben?
I've been involved with the game of basketball since age 5. I started coaching my brothers at this age in the driveway, and after that transpired to coaching their town league team here in Windsor for about 3 years. Then, a couple years later, I moved on to the high school level, where I met varsity coach Ken Smith. And once I met Coach Smith freshman year, we clicked instantly. So much to the point that after my freshman season, after one season with the varsity team, he promoted me to student coach. So I was with him on the varsity squad for 3 seasons. So I stayed there for the remainder of my high school career. And because of the success of the program, I had an opportunity to coach at the collegiate level. I coached collegiately for 4 years at Mitchell College under head coach Todd Peretz. And once I graduated from college, Coach Smith graciously allowed me to come back to Windsor. And this is my 2nd season as an assistant coach there.
What drew you to the sport of basketball?
A lot of just the simple fact of watching it on TV. I was fascinated by the fact that a simple object could swish through a net, and that brought so much joy and happiness to a lot of people. And then I saw that there was this one figure on the sideline that everybody seemed to be looking towards for advice, guidance, and everything they seemed to say, everybody would pay close attention to them. And I thought that was pretty unique. Later on, as I got a little bit older, I realized that this particular person that I look up to was a coach. And I thought to myself, hey, that would be pretty cool if I could be just like that individual. So that's when I kind of decided that my career goal was to become a college basketball coach. And ever since then, the game has provided so many numerous opportunities for me to pursue that dream.
I noticed that you are involved in the Jamboree. Tell me a little bit about that. And what is the reasoning for it?
Yeah. Okay, so one of the big things we do in the Windsor program is fundraising. And one of our big fundraising events is a basketball jamboree. What happens is we invite various teams from around the area for an evening event where they come and scrimmage against each other and they scrimmage against us. And then we all, as a team, we all make food, so as the host, they come and we feed them as a token of our appreciation for them participating in the event. And then all the money that's raised goes towards fundraising for the program. So that can be, team warm-up suits, new basketballs, new banners in the gym, anything to try to help the program. All the money that's raised goes towards that. And it's really a nice event because it also brings out the community. One of the big things we try to do with the program is encourage community support, because we want the kids to know that we appreciate, the effort and dedication they give to the program. So we want to show them that, the community support is behind them during the whole season.
What is your future goal during, probably 5 to 10 years down the road as far as basketball goes?
The ideal goal would to be a college basketball coach. If that doesn't work out, hopefully maybe continuing to coach at the high school level. And if that doesn't play out, just hoping to stay involved with athletics at some level. With me, the big thing in athletics is I've been very fortunate to see a lot of academic and athletic success and a lot of different athletes that come from a variety of backgrounds with different circumstances. And just to be able to share the journey of success with them experiencing the many ups and downs and the obstacles they have to overcome. To see the amount of athletes that I've seen persevere through their obstacles and really, strive to be the best they can be and help them discover their true academic and athletic potential, that's been really rewarding for me, and that's something that I hope I can continue to help others do.
What obstacles or hardships have you faced in life as well as basketball?
Okay, so I'll start with basketball first. In terms of basketball, when I made this known that it was my, I guess you could call it, ideal dream to become a college basketball coach, a lot of people didn't see that happening. Maybe it was because it's such a competitive field, and there's a very slim opportunity for me to get in the door, or maybe it was the fact that I wasn't going to have the opportunity to play basketball, so I was going to have to kind of go the back road. But there wasn't really a lot of support in terms of helping me trying to get my dream to come true. And every time I would talk to somebody that was involved in the game, I could always tell there was a slight bit of doubt in their voice when I would say, well, I want to try to get involved in coaching and be at the highest level. And they would kind of look at me like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you know what it takes to get to the top? And a lot of the times I would think to myself, yeah, I do. But I would give the more candid answer and say something like, I know it's going to be a long journey, but I believe in myself, I believe in my vision, and I'm just going to break it down into small steps each day. I'm going to use the resources around me to succeed, and if I have questions, I'm not going to be afraid to ask, because I know in order for me to learn and be the best that I can be, I need to put myself out there so I can provide opportunities for myself and others. So that's basketball. In terms of other obstacles, okay, so I was a premature baby, and that presented many obstacles in itself. So, as a result of me being a premature baby, I was 3 months early. I was supposed to be born in June, but I was born at the end of March. And I only weighed 2 pounds. So, to put that in perspective, I had to wear clothes the size of my hand. So, obviously, being born early, my body wasn't fully developed. So, because of that, I had to be put in special care in the hospital, and I had to be put on an incubator, which is a machine that specializes in giving oxygen to the body, because since my lungs were not fully developed, I was lacking oxygen. So, I was kind of blue when I came out. So, I was on this incubator for 24 hours, 1 full day. And even with the incubator, there was a lot of doubt that I wouldn't make it. So because of that, I had to be transferred to a bunch of different medical facilities to try to get the most urgent care that I could get, just so I could survive. So to be perfectly honest, when I came out, I was legit fighting for my life. Thankfully, everything worked out okay. I was in the hospital for about maybe 3 days. After that, everything was fine. I went home and I started living. And then about a year later, when babies are projected to, start walking or whatever, I didn't do it. So that's how they knew something else was wrong. So what happened was, every time I tried to sit up straight, normally people are able to sit up straight and, they won't flop to a side. They'll sit straight up. With me, it was the opposite. I didn't have enough strength, so I would always flop over to one side. So that's when my parents knew something else was wrong, and I had to go back to the hospital and get kind of reevaluated. So I went back, and the doctors determined that I had a diagnosis called cerebral palsy. What that is it affects muscle balance and coordination in different parts of the body. For me, it was my legs that was diagnosed, and that was a big reason why I didn't have, a lot of strength in my lower body. That was why I was always flopping over to one side, because I just didn't have the strength in my lower body to hold myself up. So, because of that, they said he's going to have to wear AFOs or leg braces. Now, I was only 2, 3 when I started wearing the leg braces. So, what they had to do in order to make this happen was at the hospital that I was at Connecticut Children's Medical Center. This is where I went to get a lot of my care. So what they did was they had a special department, orthotics is what they called it. So that department specialized in making the braces. So I had to go there often, a couple times a week. So what they would do is they would make molds of my legs. So they had a special kind of cloth material that they would wrap around my legs. Like you see somebody getting their ankle wrapped, kind of like that. So they would wrap up my entire leg, and then they would put like a straw inside the mold, and then they had this machine that would cut the mold straight down the middle. So when they were done cutting the mold, it was a perfect mold of my leg. So it'd be my leg in a mold. And then they would take it to the back, and they had this special machine that would take the plastic mold and mold it into a brace so it could fit my leg. So then they would come back with the brace, put it on my leg, and the brace had Velcro straps on the top and the bottom. So my foot would slide, right in the leg slot. And then I would have a Velcro to strap my ankle in place, and then a Velcro to strap, my knee in place. So I had braces on both legs, and I wore these braces all the way up until sophomore year of high school. So, let's just say I wasn't supposed to be walking. So, I had to teach myself how to walk. The doctors really didn't give my parents any time frame for me to start walking. They just said, he's going to have to wear the braces for a while, and we're not really sure when he's going to be able to walk, when he's going to be able to talk, when he's going to be able to drive, and a lot of other things like that. So let's just say there was a lot of doubt, especially from them. And I taught myself a lot of these things through trial and error. The first thing I did was teach myself how to walk. So, but that wasn't without a lot of falling down and a lot of backtracking, because I just didn't have the balance and the coordination that a lot of people do. So to put that in perspective, most people walk heel toe. Their heel touches the ground first, and then the other part of the foot comes down. I didn't walk like that. I walked more of in a crouch. So my feet, instead of being straight out, my feet kind of turned in. So because of that, I kind of walked in a crouch, and I was kind of bent over all the time. I wasn't really able to stand straight up. And that was because the muscles in my legs were so tight that I just couldn't do it. And that's how I walked for a while up until 7th grade. So the fact that I could even take steps doing that was a testament to a lot of my trial and error. And it's kind of really amazing, because I fell so many times. Like, I would take a couple steps and then I would fall over. Just because I didn't have, the strength and the coordination. I had to teach my body how to do that. So I was able to teach my body enough so I could at least walk around, in school and whatnot. But it was with this crouch all the time. And of course I went back to the doctors a lot, and they monitored, this. And then eventually they said, you know what, in order for him to live longer, we're going to have to operate. So what happened was, going into my 8th grade year, I was about 13, I had a massive leg operation. So what they did was they cut my whole lower half up. So they cut up my hamstrings, they cut up my hips, and they cut up my groin. So, and I still have the scars to reminisce the operation. I have two scars on my quads, both of my quads. I have two scars on my hips, and I have, scars on my groins. So, what happened is they went in and they lengthened both of my hamstrings, so that would take away the crouch, so I wouldn't walk with a crouch anymore. They rotated my hips, so my feet turned inwards because everything was so tight. So when they rotated my hips out, my feet straightened out. So, and to keep them that way, they had to put little screws in my hips. So for about a year and a half after this whole operation, I had to go back and get the screws taken out of my hips. So then, and then for my groins, they lengthened my groins to try to help, avoid my knees from caving in. So after all that whole operation took about 12, 13 hours. I woke up in the hospital, and I was in a full cast from the top of my legs to the bottom of my ankles. And there was a bar in between the cast to keep my legs, in the straight position, because that's how, I was gonna, walk from now on. I was in the hospital after that for about 5 days, and I completely did nothing. I was, it was a total new me, but I was still, out of it and dazed. So then they took the cast off before I went home. And when they took the cast off, it felt like I was paralyzed, almost because I had no strength in my legs. Because they, cut me up and operated, I lost all the muscles in my lower half. So I basically had to regain all them. So that being said, they put me through a lot of therapy before I left the hospital, just to get my basic range of motion back. So I was in like a whirlpool a lot, where they were just moving me around, trying to help me get back, the feeling and sensation. And then after that, they put me on home therapy a lot. So I had a visiting, nurse come in and, stretch me out, move me around, all that good stuff. And on top of that, I also went to a rehab center where they, helped me, learn how to walk again. Because I basically had to learn how to walk all over again. So they had me walking around a lot with a walker, with crutches, going upstairs slowly. So I did that, let's see, this was in the summer, June. So I basically did that for 3 months until I went back to school the following August. With all that being said, I still wasn't in position to walk on my own yet. So when I went back to school, I'm going to say this was in 8th grade, I was in a wheelchair for about maybe half the year. During that time, I was still getting a lot of therapy in school, maybe 3 times a week. And it was a lot of the same stuff, just trying to regain my strength, my mobility, my range of motion, all that good stuff. Thankfully, about midway through the year, I had regained enough strength and mobility to get out the wheelchair. Then I moved over to a walker. So it was tough to get around school sometimes because my stamina wasn't there. I had to build up my stamina a lot. So what happened was they had to, have somebody carry my books. They had to, let me leave class early, so I wouldn't, get trampled, and so I would have enough time to get from point A to point B. But with all that being said, I was still able to do, well in school. I was still able to make friends and, get good grades and all that good stuff. So I was with the walker for about maybe 4 to 5 months. And then they said, I went back to the doctor, and the doctor said, let's take some x-rays and see how you're healing up. So they took x-rays and everything was healing properly. So they said, okay, you don't need the walker anymore, but you're still going to have to wear, the braces. That was no surprise because I never really thought I would get rid of the braces, to be honest. But they said, everything's coming along. Just continue to do your stretching that we tell you to do, and you'll continue with the therapy, and then we'll keep taking it day by day. So that continued for a while, and I was doing really well in therapy. And my therapist was telling me, if you continue to do all these stretches, and you continue to come see me, when you're supposed to, there's going to be a chance that, you're going to be able to eventually get rid of the braces. I didn't believe them when they told me that. But they said, watch, if you trust me, it'll happen. So this was back in 8th grade. So then I faced the transition of going from middle school to high school. Now, obviously, the high school was a little bit bigger. Everything was more spread out. And there was multiple levels. And, there was concern about my schedule and me getting around still, because I still wasn't fully recovered. So they created this big, IEP thing for me in terms of, just trying to set me up for success. So what happened was they gave me, a set of books I could keep here at home, so I didn't have to worry about carrying my books all over the place. They gave me a permanent pass so I could leave class 5 minutes early, so I wouldn't get trampled, in the hallway, and I could get to class on time. And then they gave me a scribe in class to help me take notes in case I got tired and I was just kind of zoning out. They had somebody there to kind of help me out. So that worked out. That worked out really well. I was able to handle a lot on my own. The only thing that was kind of tough was the books and whatever. So having to carry around the books. So having the set of books at home was really, really, helpful. And I kept up with the therapy, and I was doing so well with the therapy and my stretching that about midway through freshman year, and granted I was still wearing the braces to this point, but still wearing the braces. So midway through freshman year, I was just coming out of a therapy session, and my therapist pulls me aside, and she goes, I think you're going to be able to get rid of the braces within the next year. I think you've regained enough strength and mobility, and you've shown enough progress that you're going to really be able to get rid of the braces. But don't take my word for it. Go back to the doctor, show them where you're at, and see what they say. So that's what I did. I made an appointment with the doctor, and I went back, and I said, all right, listen, I'm going to show you where I'm at right now, and you tell me what you think is the next step. So they said what they've told me all these years. They said, all right, go out in the hallway and walk down the hallway. And we'll watch you walk, and we'll take our notes, and then you'll come back in here and we'll have a discussion. So, walk down the hallway. As I'm walking down the hallway, I'm thinking to myself, I've come a long way. From the braces when I was 2, to this 12-hour operation, to being in a full cast, to going from a walker to crutches, to nothing now. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen. But as I'm walking down the hallway, I'm like, I really feel, the strength back in my legs. And I looked down, and for the first time, I was like, wait a minute. I'm not crouching anymore. My legs are straight. My feet are straight. I can put my heel on the ground. I walk like everybody else. So that means this operation that cost millions of dollars paid off. I'm free. So I go back in the room, and I said, did you guys see that? And they looked at me and they said, yeah, we were watching you the whole time. So now it's your call. You don't have to wear the braces anymore. Is that what you want to do? I said, yeah. Why don't we give it a shot? And if I feel any pain or discomfort, I'll go back to wearing the braces. So they said, yeah, next week in school, don't wear the braces for the whole week, and if you feel any pain or discomfort, then, come back and tell us, and we'll figure out what to do. So I was the happiest kid in the world the next week at school. For first time without the braces, going up and down the stairs, feeling no pain. So I called the doctor the next week, and I was like, no problems. What's this mean? And they said, you're an adult now. You can decide. Do you get rid of the braces entirely, or do you just keep them? And I said, you know what? I trust myself enough. I have all my stretches that you guys gave me. I know enough about my condition now and what's happened to me to, know how to properly take care of my legs and just how to live, with this disability. So they said, all right, you don't have to wear the braces ever again. So ever since middle of sophomore year, I haven't worn the braces again, and I've been able to, walk without any assistance ever since then. So that was a big thing, getting rid of those. But still, I mean, there's been a lot of discrimination coming up through this whole process, and a lot of non-believers, especially after I had the huge operation. People were saying, he's never going to be able to walk again. He's never going to be able to drive. But I proved all them wrong. A couple years later, senior year, I started taking driver's ed, which they said was never going to happen because I just wouldn't have the balance and coordination within the lower body to operate a car. So I went through the regular protocol of going to class and taking all the training courses and whatnot. And then I came to my actual test. Now, let's just say where I went, the particular people were not very encouraging. They didn't really give me a chance as soon as I walked in the door. And my parents saw that. So they pulled me aside and they said, it's up to you. Do you really want to go forward with this, or do you just want to leave? And I said, you know what, I got nothing to lose, so I might as well go for it. I went for it, but as soon as I came back in the building, I could tell something was wrong. So they called my parents into the office and they told me to stay outside. And I was like, I know exactly what they're going to say. They're going to say, we wasted our time coming here and they're not going to give me a license. So my parents go in, they come back out. I didn't even need to really look at them to really realize what happened. And they said, yeah, we're going to need to figure something else out because this is not going to work here. I said, what happened? And they said, they basically told us that you're not capable and you're not going to be able to drive. So I said, all right, that's kind of what I figured. And they said, yeah, so we're going to need to figure this out. So I said, well, you know what, I'm gonna get a license one way or another, so I'm gonna figure this out on my own. So, a couple weeks later, we got in contact with another branch of the DMV. We explained my situation and we said, what can you do to help us out? And they said, well, considering your previous, experience at the other DMV, we're going to need to basically do another assessment of you. And I was like, okay, so what does that mean? And they were like, well, we're going to need you to come in and we're going to have to test you out for hand controls and whatnot in a vehicle. And I said, okay. So I set up an appointment and I went to the place and they said, all right, we're going to put you through a bunch of different, situations and scenarios. And we're going to just try to test all your motor skills and see if you're up to par with, the standards to drive. So I said, all right, fine. So they put me through that. And let's just say that was not a very good experience for a lot of different reasons. Mainly because I saw from the start that these people didn't care about me at all. Like, I would try to ask questions about certain type of situations, and they would just stare at me. And I would just see them writing down all these X's and all this negativity on a piece of paper. And I was just like, well, you know what? If this is how this is going to be, then this is not going to work. I didn't say anything at the time, but when we ended and they said, yeah, this didn't go well, I bursted out in tears. And I was just like, this is not this is not happening. And I didn't say anything else. I just left, and my parents were there, and my parents were like, yeah, you guys didn't even give our son a fair opportunity. You guys don't understand, what's going on here. And they were like, well, we're sorry, we're not budging. So we left, and so at that point, it was just the kind of sad truth that I was never going to be able to drive. But I didn't want to accept that. I was like, I'm going to figure this out on my own. So a couple weeks later, my mom came over to me, and she was like, we'll figure this out together. So what happened is my mom and I just started randomly driving around the neighborhood. Just us two. No DMV, no other people, just us two. And she was like, we're just going to do this for a while until, we can get your confidence back up. And that was what was needed, just me and mom. Just driving around, getting my confidence back, getting the feel back, not having to worry about all these naysayers, all this negativity. So, about a month and a half later, I felt confident enough. I went up to my mom one day and I said, Mom, see if we can convince these DMV people to, come out here and give me another test, because I think this time I'll pass. She said, all right, that's what we'll do. So they came out. The lady was like, okay, I hear you want to take your road test again. I said, yep, I'm ready. She said, all right, take me around the neighborhood. If you pass, I'll give you the license right on the spot. We went around the neighborhood, and she said, drive me to your favorite spot. So at that particular time, it was the high school. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna drive you to the high school. Place of good memories. She said, all right, you can show me your childhood roots. So I said, all right. So we drove there, and as we're driving there, I just had the feeling, the confidence that this was going to do it. I was going to my favorite place. I was confident. I had driven these roads so many times that I knew I was going to get everything right. So we pulled into the parking lot, and she said, all right, here's the last thing. You park into a spot, you do it right, you're going to be happy. So as I'm pulling in and parking into the spot,